All right, now it feels like it's playoff week, and we're actually getting ready to watch a playoff football game.
Yeah, when there's like an extra 20 people in the auditorium for Nick Sirianni's presser, then it feels like playoff week.
Yeah, it certainly did feel like that on Tuesday. I have to say Tuesday because today's a Wednesday schedule. It's throwing me off. My head's spinning. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. We're live here at Rivers Casino, Philadelphia at the Sportsbook. Rube, doesn't it always throw you off? Again, there's a weird day game.
Yeah, Saturday game. You're because we're on a Wednesday schedule today, then Thursday schedule, Wednesday, Friday schedule, Thursday, and then a Saturday schedule. Obviously, Friday, which means the team's off, and then we'll be on a Sunday schedule Saturday, which means there'll be a game. So, yeah, it does take some getting used to. We have like a media schedule for the week, and I probably look at it like 5 times a day just to figure out what day is it, where am I supposed to be, where am I going next. Because I'm not very organized. I don't know if you've noticed that in the years that we've worked together.
Well, it's really funny because the first thing I do every week when I get to the NovaCare complex is I write down the schedule and I tack it to the wall on my cube. So it's always there if you need it.
Okay, I'll take that. I always mean to print it out when we get it, and I never do. Well, now I'll look on your cube.
There you go. All right, it's a fun week though, and
It's
in a weird way. It's obviously the Eagles don't have a short week, but it's short in preparation because the Giants won on Sunday, and then there's a Saturday game. So all of a sudden, you're like thrust into game prep if you're the Eagles. But they also hedged a little bit, and they began working ahead when there were 3 teams left, and they happened to be working on the Giants as they beat the Vikings. So they have a pretty good leg up. They had some stuffed crust pizza from Pizza Hut.
Yeah. Yeah, no
people aren't happy about that.
I don't blame them. But yeah, they all sat. The offensive coaches were sitting there. Kevin Patullo kept turning the volume down. Nick kept turning it up. But yeah, I thought in the locker room it did kind of feel a little different. Guys are pretty fired up. Everybody was talking. It was crowded in there. Is that playoff feel, and that just gets bigger and bigger as the weeks go if they keep winning. Which is kind of cool. It's kind of cool that the Eagles, especially when, they're kind of in the center of the NFL universe, they're top seed in the NFC, and there's going to be a lot of attention on them, and see how they handle it.
Yeah, and the good thing is pretty much everyone in that locker room has been in the playoffs before. This team, even though they got beaten pretty soundly last year by the Bucs, I still think that experience helps quite a bit. And because it's funny in your head, you're like, yeah, they were in the Super Bowl not that long ago. No, that was a while ago. There's just 7 guys left from that Super Bowl team. So
five position players.
Yeah, I count Rick Lovato and Jake Elliott.
Yeah, and they're pretty important players. BG and Fletch and Kelsey and Lane and Sayamalo, all linemen. Who was the last skill guy who was here from that team? I don't want to try to figure that out, but there's only 3 starters that have never played in the postseason. I was talking to Hassan Reddick about that, who's never been in the playoffs. And I said, "You've never even been on a winning team, have you?" He said, "Well, 8-8 count." I said, "No, 8-8 is not a winning team." He said, "Well, it was my last year at Temple. I think they were 10-4 in 2016 under Matt Rule." So he's never played on a winning team before. The only other starters that have never been on a playoff team are Reed Blankenship. Obviously, he's a rookie, and Kaiser White, who was with the Chargers when they were not going to the postseason. I think his rookie year they did.
He was on IR.
He was on IR, so he's never played in a postseason game. We both looked that up.
Well, I talked to Kaiser last week.
Oh, okay, yeah. You did your story on that was a good story on all the offseason acquisitions and their feelings about making the decision to come here. Check that one out on Dave's page. But yeah, it's 19 out of 22 starters have playoff experience. That's really valuable.
It is. And it's funny because in the moment last year, it didn't feel very valuable. Or they went down to Tampa and it was ugly. But I think they can pull from that. I think Jalen can pull from that. He's obviously a much different player. This team is much different than last year. But getting that out of the way has to feel good right now.
Yeah, and for Nick too. I mean, he's been through it. I think he learned a lot from last year. And I just wrote about this, how postseason coaching is a totally different animal than regular season coaching. Even though your approach has to stay the same,
Yeah.
I think a lot of coaches kind of bottle up. They're not the same guy in the postseason, and you can't do that. You can't play it safe. You can't stop taking risks. You can't stop being aggressive. I think Doug is a great example of a guy who coaches in the playoffs the same way he does in the regular season. If that means, running a toss sweep on fourth and inches, whatever works. And if it worked during the regular season, keep doing it. I think a lot of coaches get away from that. Like, well, if we lose, we're done. I'm going to be a little more careful. You can't coach that way. And I think Nick has learned that, and I think his staff. I mean, all these coaches are back who went through the whole preparation week. I just feel like the whole team's more prepared, know what to expect. Obviously, they're a better team and they're home, and they had a week off, so there's a lot of differences.
Yeah, all those things help quite a bit.
Yeah, and look, you're facing Tom Brady, who's played in more postseason games than anyone in history. Obviously, it's not the same Tom Brady we saw last night. I don't think he can play anymore. But I've said that. I first said that like 17 years ago. Oh, he's done. But I think you're more prepared. And the one thing I kept hearing in the locker room was, about we can't take this team lightly, no matter what happened in the first game, what their record is, not who they're quote, but you just can't. You have to understand that if you don't go out prepared and do your job, anyone can beat you. And I think that message got through last year.
Yeah, and we've talked about the Giants a little bit on our bonus pod, but I don't think they're going to take them lightly. You can't. I mean, it's a different team than they've beaten twice. The second meeting almost doesn't count at all.
It's literally a different team than playing different guys. But yeah, they've. I mean, they didn't finish the season particularly strong as far as won and loss record, but the team that we saw in Minnesota was a dangerous team.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Eagles have a better defense than the Vikings, but you have to. They've got some really good players. They don't have a lot of them, but they have some really impactful players on that team, and the Eagles have to be ready for them.
Yeah, and it's one of those moments where this is a game the Eagles should win. They're more talented, but talent doesn't always win out, and if they make mistakes, then yeah, of course. I mean, you can lose anyone in the playoffs if you make mistakes. So,
and Brian Daboll is a hell of a coach. He's got more wins in the postseason than Nick does, for now. And we'll see what happens. But I think he really
that feels a little unfair.
Yeah, it is. I'm just saying he's, for a rookie coach to come in and build that kind of culture and go out to win a road playoff game is really impressive. He has those guys ready, and they play. I think their play is a reflection of him. They're smart. They don't make mistakes, and they're prepared.
Mm-hmm.
They're not a great team, but if you don't make mistakes, you have a really good chance. If you don't turn, and they never turn the ball over. Think of that,
that's the amazing thing about Daniel Jones is that was like his Achilles heel early in his career.
Yeah,
he just doesn't turn the ball over anymore.
Yeah, had 36 fumbles in his first 3 years, and he's got like 5 this year. Yeah. He's interceptions is kind of the same deal. But if you don't make mistakes, you have a chance, and they don't make mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious to see. It looks like the Eagles are kind of handling this the way you'd expect them to, and it's our first chance to be over there today. And you're hearing the right things, and it doesn't always translate, but we're hearing the right things. We're hearing them taking their opponent not lightly. We're hearing them prepare the same way, huh?
Heavily.
I don't know if that's
not lightly.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a word for that.
Heavily.
They're preparing for their opponents with respect.
Yeah.
But I've been impressed so far.
And you know where that's coming from.
Yeah, I mean that's the head coach and the quarterback, and Jalen Hurts talked a little bit about how different this Giants team is than the ones they faced, and you mentioned it's like just by the nature of who's going to be on the field, it's different, but also in terms of game plan, we've seen them really change over the last few games of the season, and it's smart. Wink Martindale's kind of done what they need to do to win games, and it does leave a little question as to like how exactly they're going to attack the Eagles.
Yeah, for instance, I think they ended up as the number 1 or 2 blitz team in the league in terms of blitzes or blitz percentage. I wouldn't blitz Jalen a whole lot.
Well, I think they will. I think they're going to try to heat him up as much as they can.
Yeah, maybe his health will factor into that. Maybe if it looks like he's not playing the same way he played in that first game, maybe you do it more. They blitzed him a lot in that 48-22 game, and he had an answer every time.
He did. Different personnel in the field for the Giants
they
too.
have Adoree Jackson now, so they're healthier certainly, but I like Jalen against the blitz when he's healthy.
Which is, I mean, that tells you how far he's come from the playoffs last year. That was Tampa blitzed the heck out of him, and the Eagles had no answers. And
it's all about he's recognizing and dissecting so quickly, and that's why he's good against the blitz now, because he understands what defenses are trying to do, and he knows where to go with the ball in those situations.
And he has good answers.
He sure does.
You know, A.J. Brown's out there. Throw him the football.
Yeah.
But that also shows you where the second year in the offense, and we've talked about this all year, that's where that, to me, that it shows up there more than maybe anywhere else. It's just knowing where his answers are when things are not ideal. He's been really good there. But the shoulder's interesting. He spoke to reporters on Tuesday and didn't give up a whole lot, which you'd expect. Clearly didn't want to talk about the injury. But it's there. And, Nick said he'll be full go at the walkthrough. It's in the back of your mind. I don't know exactly where his health is going to be.
Yeah, I don't think anyone does. And that's kind of an important question for this team. And I really believe if he's significantly compromised in his ability to have his full arsenal of skills at his disposal, it becomes a very difficult game to win.
Yeah, I agree with that, because you can't call it. You can't be cautiously calling this game.
Yeah,
you just have to run the offense the way he had 77 rushing yards in that Week 14 game.
Yeah,
it was a big part of their offense. And even if it's not the read option stuff, you have to feel comfortable with him taking off and scrambling, especially if they're trying to blitz him.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, and I think they will, because you don't have any other options.
You have no choice.
But it also feels like the kind of game where every time there's congestion around him, every time he takes a hit, we're all going to be watching and kind of holding our breath a little bit, because we don't know what the effect is going to be on him.
Yeah, that's true. It makes for a lot of intrigue going into Saturday night.
It does. But
and the Giants don't know either.
Well, that's the thing. And he was asked if he thinks the Giants are going to target that shoulder. And he's, there's kind of a bounty on me every week. And he later clarified and said, I think that's kind of true with all quarterbacks. It's the nature of the position. But if you're the Giants and you think hitting him can affect his level of play even more because of this injury, I think that's the case. Any quarterback, anytime, right? You hit him and you think it's going to affect him. But if there's a more tangible reason why you think it's going to affect him in this game, then they're going to do it.
You remember the Bounty Bowl?
What? No.
Eagles Cowboys. Louis Zendejas, Jesse Small, Buddy Ryan put a bounty on.
I know the story
on Louis Zendejas. We didn't know about it. This is funny. We didn't know what was going on until the Cowboys do the best job, because we didn't have time to go into the Cowboys locker room at Texas Stadium. The Cowboys sent up like 30 pages of locker room transcripts of all the players talking about it. So we're sitting there writing this biggest story of the year off pages and pages and pages of Cowboys PR transcripts.
It is crazy.
The Bounty Bowl.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's a crazy story though.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't the first time, but
it wasn't the last either.
Yeah.
In the NFL, at least.
Yeah, but I mean, the leagues really come down on that kind of stuff.
Well, they should.
Yeah.
Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone in a great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's the Nissan Thrill of the Drive event, so gift yourself what you really want this holiday season and shop your local Nissan store or visit nissanusa.com today. Just like the holidays, these offers won't last.
Opioid addiction is a national public health crisis. The Someone You Know podcast from the Independence Blue Cross Foundation offers inspiring stories that challenge stigma, offer hope, and humanize the disease of addiction. Download the new Season 3 of Someone You Know on all major podcast platforms. All right, Rube, let's take a look at the line for this Eagles game powered by PointsBet. A little bit of movement. It opened at 7.5, went down to 7, now back at 7.5 points. The Eagles favored. What do you make of that? Is that kind of where you thought this would be?
Yeah, that seems about right. It's a tricky one to figure because the Giants are so different than we saw last time. But I think at home, considering the Giants had to play last week, they'll be on the road a second straight week. Eagles are a better team. I think it's about right. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. And it's a lot, but it's not even the biggest line this week. You have, what is it? The Chiefs are -9 against the Jags.
Doug versus Big Red.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Reid versus his first quarterback as a head coach, opening day 1999. His former assistant here, his former assistant in KC. So that's a really, really interesting matchup. I don't think has he coached against any of his former coaches in the playoffs. Have they played the Bills?
I think they played the Bills.
Yeah, I think they did the Bills. Yeah, so they're all over the place. I looked this up. Andy Reid's former assistants have 42 postseason wins. Well, Andy plus his assistants.
Okay, because he has quite a few.
He has quite a few.
Yeah. 7. So the Eagles have only ever been favored by 7 or more points 4 times in their history.
In the postseason.
Yeah, in the postseason. They're 3-1 in those games, and they've covered in their 3 wins.
Right, and the one loss was back in '81
to the Giants.
To the Giants, and 27.
What does it mean?
21. Yeah, I think that's really telling right there. That's Eagles have never lost a conference semifinal round game at home. 5-0. Just saying.
Yeah, no, I mean that is interesting. In those Andy teams, they would just lose the championship game.
That's right. Yeah, that's not a good place to be. But yeah, and it's interesting. Eagles had a better record against winning teams. Well, the Giants are a winning team. They finished over 500, but they were 7-1 against winning teams. I mean, the two bad losses were against losing, teams with losing records. Mm-hmm. Certainly at the time, the Saints and Washington, both at home. Oddly, Eagles had a better record, so the Eagles were 7-1 against winning teams. So that means they were what 7-2 against 500 or worse teams.
I liked watching you put that together.
Yeah, it's weird with a 17-game schedule. The math changes, but yeah, I think 7.5 is a good number, and I would not know which way to.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of high. It's a little dangerous.
Yeah.
If it's the 7.5 is like you're over a possession,
right? Unless unless you're the Cowboys and you're way over possession.
Yeah, we'll see on that. How about the Chiefs line -9 against the Jags? That's a lot, but
yeah, I could see them winning that game by like 40.
Yeah, I could too. How about Bills -5 against the Bengals?
Interesting. They'd have to play better than they did. Certainly,
that's for sure.
Last week, that was kind of an ugly win for those guys. Miami played really hard with a quarterback I honestly had never heard of until that earlier in the week. So, yeah, I think I might. Don't tell Sean McDermott I said this, but I might like Cincinnati +5.
I'm going to call him as soon as we leave this little room.
I think I might like Cincinnati
+5.
Those points.
How about and the other NFC game, 49ers favored by 3.5 points against the Cowboys. A little low?
I thought so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting line. I had a friend who would always say, you know what the line tells you? I'm like, no, I really don't. I don't know what that means. But again, I think for both the Cowboys and the Giants, their offenses looked incredible over the weekend. But you have to take into account the upgrade they're going to be facing as far as defenses next week.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's certainly fair. If the 49ers win, and obviously we'll see these games play out, could the Eagles be home dogs in the NFC Championship game?
I think some of that might depend on how they play. Like if they win 24-21 and the Niners beat the Cowboys, 36-8, I could see that. If it's the other way around, then I would think they'd be favored.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to do that, line now, I think I would have the Niners favored
Yeah,
by like 1.5.
might be a good place to be if you're the Eagles.
Yeah,
Home dogs in the NFC Championship game.
yeah,
It's worked before.
yeah. It's interesting. That's the game I want to see. That'd be a
49ers Eagles.
really fun game.
It feels like we're on a crash course for that. Hopefully, the Giants or Cowboys don't screw it up. It is fascinating that you have 3 of the final 4 teams in the NFC from the NFC East.
And it was kind of headed that way. The way the division played all year, it's crazy that they 3 of the best teams in NFL are in the same division.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Yeah, the same. Well, it's because the conference stinks so much.
It's part of it.
Yeah, it's time to get your swagger back with PointsBet Sportsbook. PointsBet, your move. All right, Rube. Boston Scott against the Giants. We all know about the jokes and everything. I had a chance to talk to Boston a little bit about it because, I mean, the numbers are just insane when he plays the Giants. He knows it.
His name should be East Rutherford Scott instead of Boston Scott.
And he told me, he's like, I'm a meme guy. So he knows it's out there, and some of them make him chuckle. But he made sure to show the Giants as much respect as he possibly could, as much as he has owned them in his career.
Yeah, what's he got? 10 career touchdowns?
10 of his 17 career touchdowns.
I believe he and Ezekiel Elliott are tied for most touchdowns among active players against the Giants. And I think he's got I think it's like the 5th most rushing touchdowns or 7th most. It's like he's in the top 10 all time. He's got 1 receiving, but all-time rushing touchdowns against the Giants, and he's never been a regular player.
Mm-hmm.
He just keeps, and it's not like, I mean, he keeps getting the ball against the Giants for whatever reason. Miles is hurt or someone's hurt, whatever. He always seems to get chances, and now like in the one game, I think the last game, he got a late touchdown. Could have been Gainwell, could have been Miles, but they gave it to Boston probably to pad his Giant stats. But it's a fluky thing. Look, I think he's a good player, and I think that's why. I think he's a really effective back at the goal line. He's got that low center of gravity. He's got powerful legs. I believe he was a champion weightlifter in high school in Louisiana. He's got really good vision. He sees things really well. He's just really shifty and dangerous down at the goal line. So I really believe if he got a lot of opportunities against every team, he'd be a pretty good goal line back. But it just has happened that he's gotten them against the Giants.
Yeah, and I asked him, I was like, is it just like you happen to play the Giants more? He said, I think there's some of that. Like it's 86 carries against the Giants. I mean, that's crazy. He has 196 against other teams.
Yeah, so 44% of his 45% of his carries. Yeah. It's a weird deal, but
it's 30% because he has 282 against other teams.
Oh, against other teams.
Yeah,
but hey, I'd rather have him on my team than not this weekend. But I feel that way every weekend. I think he's a good player.
He's been a really solid player since they've had him.
2018, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got him at the end of that year, right?
And let's just talk. Yeah, they got him at the end of the year. He wasn't here in 17. Howie, we give Howie credit for the moves like Reddick and AJ Brown and drafting Devontae or whatever, drafting Jalen, but those are kind of like the moves that you don't really think about. I think claimed him off the Saints practice squad.
Yeah, it was late in that season.
Yeah, maybe somebody. I don't remember if somebody got hurt. A running back. You can check the archive there on MediaEagles.com, but see what the personnel move was that same day. But they. That's the kind of move that's really underrated that Howie's pretty good at getting, guys off the. I mean, nobody knew who. It was just a line in the end of a story. The Eagles also, acquired Boston Scott from the Saints practice squad, and here we are 4 years later, and he's a really good player and a big part of this team. A lot of faith in him when he has the ball in his hands as a runner and a receiver, and he's a good blocker for a little guy,
and he's become a pretty good kick returner, giving them juice there.
Yeah.
It was Corey Clement, by the way. Went to IR.
Corey Clement, he had that clavicle.
And it was the same day they put Josh Sweat on IR with, I think, an ankle injury his rookie year.
Yeah, he wasn't playing. Corey Clement got hurt. Interesting. The year after the Super Bowl. So he's still in the league somewhere. I forget where, but uh, yeah, yeah, he's a fun player. He's different because I mean his build. He's just very very powerful. He's short, but he's strong and got great power, and he's a good player. And sometimes he'll go like a month without getting a touch,
Mhm.
and he's fine. He's like, yeah, whatever they need. He's got a great attitude, great
He does. You know
mentality.
what he told me today? He's like, I know I'm not the most talented player.
Did he say that?
Yeah, that's what he said. Like, and it's like you want to be like, no, boss, but like he knows the deal. He knows they're like Miles is a more talented player.
Yeah.
But like I think you need like to accept your role, the accept their role. I think you need to have a little bit of like self awareness like that.
Yeah.
And that's not saying he doesn't have confidence that he can get the job done, but he knows he has to do it in a different way.
Yeah. He's a very smart guy. I have some really deep conversations with him about, well, just about big picture type football stuff. Very, I think he could be a coach. I could definitely see him being a coach. Yeah, hell of a weight coach, but I think he can coach. He can coach running backs. He could be like a running back / weight coach.
Yeah.
And save some salary cap money. But he's had a nice career for himself. He's vested, a pension guy. Uh, I think he got a year for 18, fifth year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for him. And it's something to keep an eye on. We think Miles is going to be fine in the playoffs, but he did deal with that knee injury late in the year, and it seemed like they kind of limited him a little bit in the last couple games. I'm sure the week of rest was a really good thing for Miles, but whenever Miles is hurt or banged up, the next it's Boston who gets those reps. It's not Kenny. Kenny has his role. Kenny Gainwell is their 2-minute guy. He'll get some third downs, but if they at any point in the playoffs need another running back to just run it between the tackles, they'll go to Boston first.
I like Gainwell too.
I know you do.
Have you come around on him? You didn't like him early in the year.
Gainwell?
Yeah.
No, I'm fine with Gainwell. I think his role is fine.
Okay.
Yeah. There were a lot of people who thought he was going to have some like hugely expanded role in year 2, and I didn't think that was the case.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm fine on Kenny.
Okay.
How about the Giants? We're going to go through the matchups in this game on the Thursday pod. We'll really break it down. But when you just look at the Giants, is there one element of that team that kind of scares you a little bit?
Yeah, honestly, it's Daniel Jones running the ball. Because Saquon's a great back and he looks healthy. He looks really good right now. I don't think Saquon by himself. I don't think it could be a 30 carry, 175 yards. Giants win the game. I don't think you can beat the Eagles doing that. But Daniel Jones is such a different kind of runner. I don't know. He's deceptive. Like he doesn't look fast, but all of a sudden he's got like 14 yards like 14 yards on 3rd and 10, and he keeps doing it. And I think they scheme him up really, really well. And it's not all scrambling. I mean, they call a lot of design stuff from him. He never takes a big hit.
Well, he's such a big guy.
He is
6'5", 220.
Yeah, and I think because of that, he kind of like when Jalen's running, he just looks fast. Daniel Jones never looks fast, but he keeps getting big yards, and I think his growth as a passer has made it harder to defend him as a runner because you have to play him honestly. And man, when there's open space, he takes off every time, and it's a real weapon, and it's a real concern. And he seems to be getting better and better at it each week. He ran for over 700 yards this year.
Yeah, he's a weapon there, and it's to me like the design runs are one thing, but the scrambling kills you.
Yeah,
because the Eagles have good corners and they have a chance to kind of lock those guys down, and it can be so demoralizing when you think you had the play stopped and he scampers free. Now, I don't think he's like a spy all the time guy, but on certain occasions, like with Kaiser, maybe it's like you have Kaiser not attack and you have him kind of keep an eye on him.
Yeah, I think you do that. TJ maybe, but probably Kaiser's the guy. But they're all going to have to, they're going to have to get a lot of guys around him and make him not want to run. Get some licks on him early. Because he runs a lot early.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think the Minnesota game, he had 77 yards. He had like 71 in the first half. And then, and then you start being more aware of it defensively. And then he just starts, well, these guys are all open because they're all respecting my running ability. So They don't have great receivers. They
Functional.
have okay receivers, but his running ability is the one thing that scares me the most about that team.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm looking at his Pro Football Reference page, and you know how they have nicknames.
Yeah.
There, I've heard Danny Dimes a bunch. I've never heard Vanilla Vic.
Yeah, that's weak. I've never heard that either.
Who the heck calls him that?
Probably Michael.
Michael.
Yeah.
Maybe. My turn. Say one thing I think scares you a little bit about the Giants. It's just the health. They're going to have different defensive personnel on the field than the last time the Eagles saw them. And Adoree Jackson is a big one, but Xavier McKinney is a pretty big one too. And you can throw Leonard Williams into the mix, even though I don't know if he's quite healthy. Now, Ojulari has that quad injury, so he might not be full go, but getting two big pieces in the secondary back is significant. And I don't know if it's enough to stop the Eagles, who have, two really good receivers and a tight end who I think can expose the heck out of their linebackers. But McKinney is a difference maker, and Adoree Jackson played great. I mean, he not played, and then to just watch him out there against the Vikings on Justin Jefferson with some help, but on Justin Jefferson was impressive as heck.
Yeah, they stopped targeting him. What's that all about?
Good coverage.
Adoree Jackson played really well, but you have Justin Jefferson, who might be the NFL Offensive Player of the Year. I know one person that voted for him. You have to target him more than 3 times in the second half. I don't care who's covering him. I mean, that's the whole idea of having him.
Well, that's the advantage a team like the Eagles have.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because if they choose to, I would think Adoree's going to see a lot of AJ. I mean, they have some options though too, because you could say, what if the Giants say, no, we're going to put Adoree on Devontae Smith and then bracket AJ.
Yeah,
they have some options like that.
Yeah,
too.
they do. Yeah. But if you're the Vikings, you have Jalen Reagor out there. Get him the ball. Anyway,
what'd you make of that Cowboys-Bucks game?
I was surprised. I expected the Cowboys to win. I think we talked about that, but I was surprised just how utterly ineffective the Bucks were for most of that game.
Tom Brady, gosh,
looks shot.
Now maybe he'll be re-energized or energized next year on a different team, different coach. But man, that was ugly.
He was just missing guys so badly. Yeah.
That defense has no juice.
No,
they're not getting after the passer at all.
Yeah, it was.
Dak could have taken a nap in the pocket.
Yeah, he played great. He played great.
Yeah. Didn't get touched either.
No, he didn't. But he was making all the throws. He made some ridiculous throws. He's so talented. I know everyone's like, everyone hates Dak. He's a good player when he's healthy, man. Watch out. He's a good quarterback, really good quarterback. Yeah. And, that was a big step for the Cowboys winning. It was their first road playoff win in 26 years, I think. So they're a dangerous team. I don't think they'll beat the Niners, but Eagles-Cowboys NFC Championship game.
That'd be fun.
Would be a lot of fun. We've had one of those before.
Yeah. I felt so bad for that kicker.
Yeah.
And look, I know he gets paid a lot of money. It's his job. But after the third one, you're going, oh, my God, this can't keep. To watch someone get the yips in real time was brutal.
That's what it was. And it was, I was on Twitter watching the game and he missed again. It was trending. Yeah. And then he finally made the fifth one and he finally made one as trending. Meanwhile, Jason Stark's texting me asking for missed extra point stats. First guy ever to miss 4 PATs in a game.
Yeah. I was fine with them trotting him out there again, though.
Oh, sure.
Try to get him back.
Yeah.
He's been good all year.
Yeah. Jake Elliott's missed 7 in 6 years.
Missing 4 in a game is something.
That was crazy. Dak wasn't real happy after that third one.
No, yeah. I get it.
You can read his lips.
Once you get to 3 points lost, you're like, well, that could end up.
They weren't going to lose the game.
No, but early in the game, you thought, oh, that could come back to haunt them a little bit.
Yeah, but by the time they scored their third touchdown, it was 18-0. It was weird, but they weren't going to lose the game.
Yeah,
they're so much better than Tampa. Tampa stinks, and we said that all week.
Yeah, well, we said it all year.
Yeah,
Tampa and the Vikings stunk all year.
Yeah.
And they finally got exposed. All right. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye Podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, click the like button, subscribe there as well. We appreciate the listeners and the watchers just the same. That's it.
Viewers.
Watchers, viewers, same thing.
Watchers sounds weird.
Yeah, it does sound like they're through a window somewhere. Yeah, viewers. Yeah, we'll go with viewers. All right, for Rube, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan Live here at Rivers Casino, Philadelphia. We'll talk to you soon.